to Facebook Live. Setting up your webinar for Facebook Live.
Mm-hmm.
Done. Redirecting to Facebook Live. Okay. So now it says it's live.
Oh, we're live on Facebook Live.
It might be live. Like we might be live right now.
It's possible.
It's possible that somebody is watching us right now.
That is, there's a potential. There's a smaller potential just because it hasn't shown up on your.
Should I hit broadcast? Because it's like 10:59, so.
Sure.
I mean broadcast in Zoom, so, okay. 3, 2, 1, broadcast. We are live people.
Hi. Did you do gallery view?
2 live people. What do you mean?
2 live people.
Gallery view.
Or the thing where last week we were switching instead of
yes. Okay, yeah, no, it's set to gallery view. But I think that if I hit record, that it should set it to go. I'm not sure if it's going to go record to the cloud though. No, it's okay. It's recording on my computer, so that's fine.
Right.
Okay, well, hello. If there's anybody out there, we're just getting started. I'm Nicholas.
Oh, and I'm Adrianne Gunn.
Yes, she is.
I am.
And we're going to be started here in just a minute. Welcome to How to NLP Standing Up. You know, I keep getting the impression that there are a bunch of people that haven't got that joke.
What?
Yeah, no, I keep getting a bunch. I keep getting the impression, like I keep asking people, that's funny, right? And they're like, funny what? NLP standing up, NLPing. And maybe it should be peeing. That's the thing. Like, you should have put the ing on there somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Suppose I'm of the belief that sometimes it's even funnier
If the joke goes over people's head.
Well, one, if it goes over their head and only 3 people get it, that's amazing.
Then those people are like really special.
Yeah, they earn certain levels of credit.
So if anybody's watching, did you get the joke out of NLP Standing Up? Because we had a picture of like a woman looking down like this, and it looked like she was in a bathroom.
Right.
So like, yay! Like I think
pretty good. I think it's great. And also now that awkward humor is important, for instance, like Family Guy, where you just keep doing the joke and then it's not funny and then it becomes funny.
Then it becomes funny again. Yes.
As long as we continue to explain the joke, it gets more funny.
Well, I think of it like this, like marketing is something for me where if it doesn't entertain me, I can't do it. Like I gotta find at least something that's gonna make me think it's clever and funny and entertaining. So is there anybody here? It looks like there's people here. Like we're not all alone. It's Corley and Eric. Hey Eric, how you doing?
Hey.
Long time, buddy.
Okay.
Are you able to see the chat function there and give us a shout out?
Nice. I am currently.
Hello, Corley. I see you said hi. Sorry,
sharing
Adrianne, I'm talking over you.
No worries. Mine's not exciting. I have to keep turning my head to share these to 4 different pages.
I know. We're getting everything set up here, but now would be a great time for anybody watching or listening to round up your questions. What are your hot, burning, sexy NLP and hypnosis questions? They don't have to be sexy. They could be, though. That would be especially fun.
But hot and burning is.
But hot and burning. They've got to be hot and burning. And then we have your ointment. No. We have your NLP answers.
Yay! Answers for the burning questions of NLPing. If it's burning while you're NLPing, you may need to see someone about that.
See, we're building like a whole thing here. It's great. How to NLP standing up, and if you're NLPing standing up and it's burning, and you have burning questions, we have your answers.
Brilliant. Oh, I see where we have our people. This is funny. Where did my chat? I have a chat window with no place to type things, which is less useful than you might think. Pop out.
Eric says, hi, Nicholas and all. I'm in Tempe, Arizona,
Nice.
and in the middle of a nasty cold/flu. I feel your pain, my friend. I have been sick as a dog the last 2 weeks. I literally, this morning, yesterday maybe, have only just really started to feel like myself again. Although I'm still sleeping like heavier and longer than I normally am. So, man, oh man, I feel your pain, and rest, recover, take care of yourself. And hey, thanks for being on here.
That's awesome.
It has been a while. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eric. You went down a deep dive of breath work study. Is that correct? I seem to remember that you went on a deep study into breathing and the power of breath. I would love to have a chance to chat with you about that further, if I'm not mistaken, because I have been doing something similar, and I'd love to compare notes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually lived in Tempe. Forgive me, Eric. I recall that when I was sick in Arizona and Tempe, Phoenix area, for those people that don't know where it is, it's worse. It's worse because it's always gorgeous and you're supposed to match your surroundings. So it's even slightly more painful to be ill somewhere beautiful.
Yeah, like if it's raining and miserable outside, or there's like snow or something and you're curling up and you feel sick, it's like, oh yeah, this is appropriate. I'm supposed to be sick right now.
Responses about breath work.
Yeah. Eric says true, and I'm facilitating a weekly breath work group in Gilbert. It'd be great to chat sometime. I would love to. So I'll shoot you a message on Facebook afterwards, and we'll talk about it. That sounds great. Maybe back after you're through your cold flu and you can actually breathe again.
We were talking prior to jumping on here about simple things that are important, and breathing reminds me of this.
Yeah.
This is the topic we wanted to talk about today. There are some simple things that are useful. I was joking earlier that walking is exercise, salad is food, and my finish of that is that breathing is important.
It is. It is. Well, you brought up the topic of state control. So while other people are, and this is a friendly reminder, for those of you watching or listening on Facebook or Zoom or otherwise, if you have questions, no, let me rephrase that. Please think of some questions, because this is so much more fun when we get to have the chance to respond to your questions, the things that are actually pertinent and on your mind, that are relevant to hypnosis, NLP, coaching, really anything that you want to ask and want to get our take on. And we decided to come to the table with a couple of questions. And the one that you brought up before, Adrianne, was about state control. And we were talking about basically two different ways, the two primary ways that you can handle your state control. But you were saying something about a billion-dollar industry. Talk a little bit about why state control.
So, and then actually it was like two concepts. It's mindset and state control, which are the foundations of personal development. Like that coaches, even Tony Robbins, right? Massive. What he does is has people focus on their mindset, what they're looking at, focusing on, and who they're being, their state. And that's essentially nearly every book that you can pick up about personal development is a reminder that we're responsible for what we focus on in life and who we're being. And that is sort of the bottom line of NLP. So I wanted to talk, and those are simple things. These are not mind-boggling techniques specifically. And much like breathing and walking and eating vegetables, these are like the groundwork that are simple and can shift your life massively.
Well, another perspective to add on to this is, do you recall the concept in NLP? We talk about this in Master Practitioner, that if you look at all NLP techniques, and I'll expand it further than that, you look at any transformational or healing technique that actually works, they can be broken down as different combinations of only two things: reframing and anchoring. Reframing is all about your mindset. And anchoring is all about your state. So yeah, when you say, like, Tony Robbins tried to come up with a simpler way to talk about NLP, and that's, I mean, that's awesome. What he did was find a way to talk about it to the masses. And I hesitate. I don't want to use the phrase "dumb it down" because I don't think he did. I think what he did was he tried to find ways to have like a lower barrier to entry for
Absolutely.
people to come in and understand it. But when it comes to mindset and state control, from my perspective, you are looking at reframing and anchoring. Anchoring is more about physiology when it applies to other people, from my perspective. But ultimately, when it comes to state control, my magical tool, and Tony talks about this all the time, is physiology.
Right.
It's conscientiously deciding how you use your body. Noticing, number one, how you are using your body. Because most people have no awareness of what they're doing. We are not aware that anxiety, for example, is a thing you're doing in your body.
Oh, and that we have bodies.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And it's, dare I say it, not only a part of who we are, it's who we are.
Yeah. You are your body.
Yep.
Your whole body is your brain. There's all different ways of saying the same thing, but there's no such thing as a mind-body separation, because your mind is a manifestation of your body, if you will. Or it's like your mind at any given moment is being generated by how you're using your body. I think of it sometimes as your entire life, every experience that you have is filtered through your body. The way that you cannot feel confident, and therefore you cannot be confident if you cannot stand like a confident person. And if you have had an experience of being hurt, or you were a young kid on the playground and you went out there and you put yourself out there, and then something happened and everybody turned and pointed and laughed and you got hurt and you didn't have the emotional resources to process it, and so your shoulders came forward just a little bit like that, and then they stayed there. They stayed there because every time you tried to stand up like this, your brain went, oh yeah, but remember that time when they all pointed and laughed? So you went, oh, never mind. And you don't go into the literal posture, the physiology of that form of confidence again. Eventually, the longer you stay in that position, you get to a place where you can't even do it anymore. I mean, it would be as if you held your hand in this position for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you can move your hand, you could, but after 10 years, you can't anymore. After 10 years, it's going to take everything you can to get it to move at all. And it's going to take time to be able to move, and it's probably going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be grinding that calcification away and breaking it back up until finally you can move your hand like that much. And you worked for 6 months just to be able to do this. You still can't even relax your hand and do this yet.
Oh my God.
Because 10 years of this.
This entire time you're doing that with your hands, the guitar player in me is going, oh my God, just stretching under the camera. I'm just like, because
Yeah.
I have decades of both hands.
When it comes to state control, the key is your body, is moving your body. And I like, one of the things, I remember this from Tony Robbins, there's 2 places where you can focus on first. Number 1 is your face. Focus on how you are using your face. I remember hearing stories, Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Talk about an expressive human being. I remember watching him on Inside the Actor Studio, and he told stories about how he was so lonely as a kid, and he had a very rough childhood. He was homeless for a while. His whole family was. They were living in a van, and his dad worked as a janitor, and he had to work as a janitor too when he was like 14 just to make ends meet. And but I remember he said that he spent a ridiculous amount of time staring at his own face in the mirror and just like looking at what he could do with his face. And that, I think, paid off.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Reminds me of the Alexander technique. Did you ever utilize that in theater? I know there's a whole philosophy around Alexander technique for healing work too.
Yes.
I'm getting this right. When it was explained to me by a fellow actor, I haven't trained in it. She explained it, and I totally got it.
It's on my bucket list of modalities to go and study.
Nice. So I'm not going to hit the whole thing. I'm admitting to people that I heard it secondhand. So, and then third hand as everybody's repeated it. What I remember of it is it's an efficiency of movement and utilization of your physiology. And in order to express something in particular, paying attention to whether you need to be tightening your jaw or like where are you efforting where it's not useful.
Yes.
So that when you are choosing a movement, there's no tension in it. It's the fullest expression of the thing you intend to do.
And this gets weird. Like, is this tangent we're going on? Apparently, okay, fine. This gets weird because you were talking recently about reading a book called The Inner Game of Tennis.
I was.
And one of the things that they talk about in there is that if you're choosing it, you're already lost, right? Like if you're thinking about it consciously, you've already lost because your unconscious is capable of making the decision. So it's a weird experience of like the Alexander technique and also the Feldenkrais method, which is another, like Alexander and Feldenkrais I always think of as like kind of two schools teaching the same efficiency and economy of movement. I think that there's a neurotic process that can be exacerbated by someone who is trying to conscientiously move everything, like they're trying to, like, just let's take this phrase, self-conscious. For any of you watching or listening right now, have you ever been in a situation where you were extremely self-conscious? Were you your cleverest, brightest, wittiest, most streamlined version of yourself when you were extremely self-conscious? I'm going to bet the answer is an unequivocal hell no.
No.
Being self-conscious, what does that literally mean? It means you are conscious of yourself.
Which is self-involved and selfish.
And you're getting in your own way when you're doing that. So there is this whole thing about choosing how to be to use your body. How do you break your own state when you're in a funk? Anybody here? Let's just talk about depression for a second.
Boom, going.
How many of you have ever been in a funk before? There is a thing that you can do when you are in a funk. There is a thing that you can do when you are depressed that will get you out of that depression. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what it is, but you're not going to like it. The thing that you can do that will get you out of that depression is the number one thing you don't want to do in that moment. And I kind of mean that as like an abstraction in the sense that you could just ask yourself when you're depressed, what's the number one thing you don't want to do, and go do that, and it'd probably break you out of it. But I'm going to be more specific than that, because in that moment, if you're depressed like I get depressed, you can't think of it. Mm-hmm. So tell yourself ahead of time. Program this in that the next time you go, hey, you're depressed again. And you're like, oh, what? You know ahead of time the thing you're supposed to do. So listen to this. Ready? Depression is the opposite of expression. When you have a thing you want to express and you repress that expression, you repress it long enough and it becomes depression.
Fair.
So what do? Express. How? Like a crazy person.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
Get it out. Let it out. Move your body. This is the best thing you can do. When you're depressed, what do you want to do? Lay around. What's the best thing you can do to get yourself out of it? Literally anything physical. But if you can make noise, if you can be a lunatic, if you can run, if you can scream, if you can beat the fuck out of something, not a person, generally.
All of the fuck. You have to beat all of the fuck. If you start to beat the fuck, continue till the fuck is out.
Yes.
Get the fuck
out. I mean, there are patterns of expression that get trapped in us that we repress. Like when you're a little kid and you're wiggling around and people say, sit still, you ingrain that wiggling or moving to express is somehow bad or wrong, that it is unacceptable in a civilized society. But when people are driving on the freeway and you get angry, we grit our teeth. Why? Because you are an animal. And because you want to bite that motherfucker. That is what. But we don't. We don't let it out.
No.
We repress it. We ignore it. And then eventually we get depressed. So what do? Bite something. Get a towel.
Oh, he's gonna do it.
Pillow. There is something enormously satisfying about letting your animal out. Like one of my favorite ones is choking, not like a person, but like grab like a pillow and like pin it down and then like work yourself up into the state where you're like murdering a motherfucker. Not because you actually want to. You do it there so you don't want to do it in other circumstances. But like I always use like someone is like hurting my family. That's the one that I'll use. Is like that one will get me going. Like, and then I'll take whatever pillow or whatever and I'll pin it down and then just like go absolutely berserk.
And I'm going to remind you that one of our focuses is about state control. And you're talking about things that help you shift what's going on in your body.
Yeah. So you are controlling your state. To me, it's like taking a puppy to a dog park and letting it off the leash in an environment where the dog can go crazy and it's not going to hurt anybody. And it's not going to get hurt. But if you don't let your animal off the leash, then why am I talking about this in the context of state control? Because if somebody does something and it pisses you off and you lose your composure, you lose your state control, you act in a way that you are not happy with, that's because they triggered something that was already inside. And those things, they cannot stay repressed forever. Mm-hmm. They will come out. And also repressing them leads to depression.
Well, and we know with dogs that if they don't get to run around and wiggle and jump and spin and go crazy outside, they're going to do it in the living room. And they're going to shit places and piss places and tear up your stuff.
Tear up your pillows.
And if we were like, if we're the dog, we don't want to be shitting in other people's living rooms, but we do.
Yep.
When we're not getting this stuff out of our bodies, we end up walking into someone's house and flipping our shit over ridiculous small things and just piddling our little like So our emotional state, I think you've talked about this, that our emotional baggage builds up. When we eat food, we shit. When our
Yes.
emotional baggage
Yes.
builds up and we don't release it, we're just shitting everywhere we go on all of the people around us and expecting that to be okay.
Yeah, I am so glad you brought that up. This goes to that concept of negative emotions. Negative emotions are not one of the first things you need to do to improve your life is stop referring to negative emotions as negative emotions. There is an implication there that they are bad or wrong or undesirable. Negative emotions are no more bad than shit. Literally. You eat food, you produce biological waste. You eat emotional life and you produce emotional waste products, but they are not bad. As a matter of fact, not shitting is a problem.
Usually, yes.
That's a real bad thing.
Well, and essentially, I am not a scientist. I have friends that are. So in physics, like every bit of energy has a waste product. There's like energy used. There's a dissipation that happens. Right?
Yes.
Smarter people know the terms for all of that, and it exists.
Yes.
We've got some chiming in here.
I see that.
Let's see. Oh, here's a fun one. When you fight yourself when you judge your emotions as negative.
There is an implicit resistance implied when you judge an emotional response as negative. So if you and by the way, you guys you're here because you want to learn about NLP, right? So you already know words are just labels. So I've heard people, this is one of my favorites. I've heard people say, I have to go, no, wait. I'm not going to say have to. I get to do my taxes. That always makes me laugh so hard because you can see it in the person's face that they're still thinking have to,
yes,
but just saying get to.
Absolutely.
The word is not the thing that matters. The emotional experience, the internal representation is the thing that matters. So if you say negative emotion, it doesn't, like I say the word negative emotion, but I don't mean negative emotion. I think anger is a wonderful, healthy thing to have happen. It's a beautiful pattern that most people do not recognize its beauty and its power. Fear is a wonderful, profound experience. And every single one of these has flip sides where, happiness and joy and pleasure can be negative in the sense that they can be damaging if there's too much of them or they come in the wrong direction. So everything in life has its flip side. But yeah, if you are implying negative, when you say negative, you are implying a judgment or a resistance to the emotional experience, and it's never going to finish. It's never going to you're never going to be done with it and able to actually let it go if you think it's bad. This is why I think techniques that say, let's let go of your negative emotions, they rarely work because you're calling them fucking negative emotions.
Yeah. Well, here's a fun. So one of the dangers of positive psychology and any life-changing personal development strategy of mindset. We were talking about mindset a little bit. When you are bludgeoning yourself with positive affirmations you don't congruently feel or believe to be, when you are like, it's dangerous to pretend you're not sad and just like, I'm happy, everything's going for me, and it makes it worse. It almost makes your unconscious mind is like, no, because look, here's this stuff and it's real and it's happening. And when you're trying to ignore a truth of an experience that's happening that wants to shift by saying everything is great, everything is perfect, I'm only my mother. We knew we were going to get to mothers eventually. My mother is amazing, and she is going through a phase right now that I call violent positivity. And we do anger well in our family. She has a lot of reasons to have trauma and anger. We all do. And so she's going through a phase where she's like, I only think positive. I don't want no negative in here. Only positive. And so she was taking care of this older woman who would say sad, negative things about her body and whatnot. And my mom was like, no, I don't have that in here. We only think positive. What's the difference? And it's like, that was useful in some way. And I'm certain that the person she was helping had some shifts. And when we do that with ourselves, it's possible that there's a better way.
It makes me think of the social justice warrior movement that we're having right now, that we're going through right now, where there's a quote, I think it's attributed to Churchill, that says, the fascists of the future will be known because they call themselves non-fascist or anti-fascist. And this idea that you can, that like all free speech is important unless it's ideas I don't like, right? Like you cannot have it both ways. Like you have to allow ideas and thoughts and words that you don't like, and you got to recognize, why are they there? Pretending that snuffing them out does not make them go away. It makes them go viral.
Yes.
And that is true on a cultural level. It's true on an individual and personal level, that if you have negativity and you are violently positive, God damn it, I love that phrase. If you're violently positive about it, you are effectively telling your unconscious, okay, look, we really are sad, but motherfucker up there won't listen to it. So let's just deal with, like, I don't want to say this, but that's how you get cancer. Like, you take those negative emotions and you go, no, and you bottle them up into a tiny little crystal ball, and it turns into fucking cancer.
Probably specifically colon cancer.
That's right.
Because the only way that you can repress anger is by clenching your pelvic floor and your anus and all of the areas in your hip.
So, I mean, you gotta be fucking real. You gotta be real. Like, if you're mad about something, like, this is why, to me, radical honesty is such an essential part. Like, if you're not at the place where you value honesty above all else, I can't talk to you. Like, we're not even at ground zero at that point. If you're the kind of person who's going to lie when the rubber meets the road to yourself or others, and radical honesty is a progressive thing. Like, I mean, it takes time. I consistently think I've got there. Like, oh, I'm being honest with myself now. And then fast forward 6 months later, and I'm like, oh my God, I was so deceived by myself. I didn't even know how dishonest I was being about myself. Yes. That's, to me, like, waking up is part of that process.
Yeah, lying to yourself is a big deal. I think people get conceptually what radical honesty might be when it comes to, like, being honest with other people. And yet, I don't know. Would you like to talk a little bit more about radical honesty?
Sure. We're getting some comments, but we're not getting a lot of questions. I'm not so subtly hinting, we'd love to have your questions. And I mean, if y'all want to just hang out while Adrianne and I sit here and shoot the shit, that's fine. We'll do that. Like, you know me, I'll talk for 10 fucking hours and not stop. And if you have questions, I'd love that too. So Coralie said about about owning your emotions. She said, thank you. I feel better about telling the pesky sales calls to fuck off, and will raise hell if they don't take me off their list. And then she said, the whole world could change if we could, as you taught me, make friends with our shadow / negative thoughts.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah, there is.
Can I mean, say one thing? Is that okay?
Please.
One of the things that we were talking about earlier is if you, oh man, I'm seeing a bunch of, like a collection of the faces of people over the years who have wanted to scream at telemarketers but didn't. And I live in a town of really polite people who tend not to tell the truth, and it turns into passive aggression. And so a lot of people that have a repressed anger, they don't think they have anger, but they're angry all of the time, and it shows up in different places. And how amazing would it be if you could fully express yourself and get your anger out safely, so that when a telemarketer called you, you would be able to remember that they're just a person just like you.
Yes.
And you wouldn't even need to yell, because you could just say, hey, I know you're doing your job. We both have things we need to do. I'm not enjoying this call and I'm going to hang up. I hope you have an amazing day. Because it doesn't stir up the feeling of being trapped in your relationship and your job.
It doesn't remind you of when you were 4 years old.
Right. And everybody's forcing you to do things, or when you were being bullied and you didn't repress the victim stuff. Like when you're talking about shadow, it's a little bit about all of the stuck things you didn't express in the past are stirring up, and you become the thing that you think you despise.
Yeah. This feels like a spiral. Like it feels like when you study NLP, you go in this circle where you end up back where you started, but you have to, it's like most people live in this world, most people who don't study personal development or whatever, they live in this world where they are completely at the effect of, like you guys get this, everybody watching here gets, that guy made me angry.
Yeah.
Like that's the world that most people live in, that I'm not in control of my feelings, they made me angry. And then we learn about NLP, and or personal development or whatever, like being in control of your mind, and we go, no one makes me angry. I am in perfect control of my state at all times. And then you go fucking crazy. Like I can fully attest to that, because you just like disconnect from your reality, which is, hey, guess what? He did make you angry. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. You are angry right now.
Yes.
But and then some people go, well, then all this stuff is bullshit.
Right.
But there's a completion of that process, which is I'm completely out of control. He made me angry. I can be in control. Oh, wait, but he still made me angry. So in order to get to the place where I am in control, I have to figure out, how did they make me angry? But you have to be honest first. You got to be, they pissed me off. They made me sad. That person hurt my feelings. They scared me. That person scares me. When my wife talks to me in a certain way, it hurts. It hurts. And if I'm not honest about it, then what I do is I get like placid, and I get like defensive, and I get like, what? I'm not hurt because I don't want to show vulnerability. Oh my God, what would that do?
No.
So there's this full circle that you come back where you're owning your emotions. You're owning the fact that you actually are angry. And then it comes back to the NLP principle of, for what purpose? What is the result? So like, we're not trying to pick on you here, Coralie, but your example of like telemarketer calls me up, and I'm gonna tell them off because they pissed me off, telling them to fuck off. What is that going to do for them in your life, in the world? What value is that going to have? Now, there are situations where the only appropriate response is get angry. And that is the appropriate response. But like Eric just said, something about choosing to be angry. I think that there is a place that you can get to where you're not out of control, where you're not reacting, you're responding. And you're like, oh no, this is an appropriate context for me to express a genuine outrage and anger
Absolutely.
And yet I'm still in control. And there are other situations where 99.9% of all human beings would get angry, but I'm not going to because it's going to work better if I'm not.
Yeah.
And you can only do that, I think, by dealing with this stuff that we're talking about.
This is reminding me, now forgive me, the extent of my knowledge of the Matrix is not as deep as some people. I did watch the first movie twice, and it's reminding me of that scene where things slow down so much that like it's the like
yeah
it's the water ballet Neo scene.
Yes.
Where sometimes when you can be in such a flow and connection with yourself, you can see the emotion come up.
Yeah.
Ooh, having a response. What does it have to teach me? And then you can notice like, oh, I can slip it this way. And then what do I want in this? Like things can slow down enough that you can show up with a different kind of integrity in those situations.
Yes. Morgan commented that's called bullet time in the Matrix movies.
Thank you.
I think that self-awareness has a lot to do with being able to have that kind of mastery. Like it's something where I am frequently observing the emotional experiences as they flow through my body. And there's times when I'm in it and I'm watching it at the same time. Like I use this analogy. Some of you may have heard this before, but you might like it. Like I imagine, like have you ever gotten lost in a movie? Like you're in the story and your surroundings, your environment, it disappears. You don't think about where you're at. So imagine that you're walking through like an electronics store and there's a bunch of televisions and they all are playing different movies, right? You know, you've seen this before where they're like showing off their fancy big screen TVs and whatever. Imagine that you're walking through and at some point you stop in front of one of the TVs with a movie on it that you get sucked into. I don't mean literally, but like you are actually caught up in the story and you're sitting there and you forget that you're in the electronics store and that there's a bunch of different TVs with different movies playing on them. And in this one, you just kind of get lost in it. And then at one point you're like, whoa, I'm standing in the middle of the electronics store. And there is this thing in your life where you can go into your life, which I think of as like the phrase, I am angry, as distinct from there is anger in my body. Oh, I feel anger right now. I can feel anger in my body is a very different concept than I am angry. I am angry is you've gotten sucked into the movie.
Yes.
I feel anger in my body is an experience that you can go, oh, hey, everybody, there's some anger going on. And then you as the conscious mind, you as the observer, you as, from my perspective, the little artificial intelligence program that your unconscious mind created when you were about 7 years old. Your unconscious made you to be the captain of the ship because it worked better for you to be able to think about yourself abstractly. But your unconscious is you. Your unconscious is you. You're a guest. You are, in a sense, not you. Your unconscious and your body is far more you than you are you. You have a job to do, but you don't really exist. And this might sound like some lofty Buddhist concepts, but this is very practical from the perspective of the distinction of, are you in the movie or are you watching the movie?
Absolutely.
You can let your unconscious be in the movie. You can let your body be in the movie. And you can still be there watching it.
One of the things that this is reminding me of. So earlier we were talking about self-consciousness, and you were talking about, well, I'm thinking about the way in which the meditative state that many philosophies that are saying how important meditation is the ability of recognizing the you, which one is the you, and the ideal of meditation is to watch the thoughts pass by and notice that they aren't you. There's a funny thing about perspective and getting lost in the movie. It's also specifically related to, I'm going to say, I don't know if it's your aperture or your focus, even in your eyes. When we were talking earlier about depression.
Sorry, that's a great analogy, aperture or focus. I'm sorry, that's great. Keep going.
When we talk about the mindset is what you focus on and who you're being, they're interconnected, because oftentimes when people are depressed, they are only focusing on and looking at all of the ways in which they are depressed and allowing it to refocus. It's a myopic journey. It's nearsighted here. And I mean this literally, that probably if you are depressed, you will find that you are in tunnel vision or zoned out so close inward that you can't see that there's also more happening. And when you expand your vision, and I'm talking about literally and not just metaphorically, I have a physical experience of this, of having had my eyes lock in to a kind of myopic, like the literal muscles of my eyes lock in, and I had a balance condition for months. The therapy that got me out of it was literally going for a walk somewhere where the sky opened up and the horizon opened up, and it was my job to make my eyes look out as far as I could see and spread it out. So there's a way in which our mindset and literally our physiology of our eyes can trap us into a current state of focusing inward. And it's going to just keep cycling and cycling and cycling. There's much more going on. We're getting lost in our own internal movie and not realizing that we're part of a bigger picture, and sitting back, seeing it all unfold in the way that you can when you are in a meditative state and connected to your real self.
Think about every time you've ever been depressed. Was it, think about all of the times. If you average them out, were they typically, was it dark? Were you indoors? Were you in a small environment?
Mm-hmm.
Were you looking down?
Probably.
What you're trying to limit the visual input, because going and expanding your vision literally takes you out of it, and we don't want to go out of it. Like, that's the thing. And that's why I said when you're depressed, the last thing you want to do is go and express. But if you want to get done with the depression quickly, do it anyway. Go do it anyway. Do it and express how much you don't want to do it. Like, that's the thing you should express. Get it out. Be like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. I want to go lay in bed and be miserable, and scream that out until you don't feel that way anymore.
Yeah.
And this actually circles back around to radical honesty if you want. You want me to go with that?
I love it.
So there's a book, for those of you who haven't heard of it, called Radical Honesty. And I think of it is one of the most significant books I've ever read in my life. And the way that I've learned to describe radical honesty in the shortest, simplest way that I know of is radical honesty is it's not just about saying what you think and feel. A lot of people who practice radical honesty, like, this is literally a meme on the internet, is if you look up radical honesty, people will be like, I'm not an asshole, it's called radical honesty. Literally, people will be like, being radically honest is shorthand for being a dick. Is like, yes, those pants make you look fat.
Because lying is politeness.
Yeah. So there is some thread of truth to the idea that there are times when we are being polite and you shouldn't be, and that it would actually be far better to walk through life always being honest. And that is true. I believe that, and I live that policy. And you cannot say everything. So what are you going to choose to say is a much more significant philosophical question. So I like to think of it like this. This is the simplest way that I know to describe radical honesty. Radical honesty is saying what you think and feel, and what you think about and how you feel about what you think and feel. So it's sharing all of it. You can't just walk around and be like, I don't like you, you're an asshole. If you say, like, I had this conversation with a client a while back who was on, she's part of a mastermind group, and she was in this forum, and there's this one dude on the forum who drives her absolutely bonkers. Yay. Like pokes her buttons in a way that she's like, this person drives me nuts. And so I was talking about radical honesty. She said, like, what am I supposed to do? Just go in there and be like, you drive me crazy, and I don't like you, and like you push my buttons. I said, well, no, that's not the end of what you say. Because why are you hesitant to say this? And she says, because I don't like the fact that I feel this way about him. Right. That's radical honesty. You drive me nuts, and I hate the fact that I am that judgmental. Yeah. I don't like the fact that I have these thoughts and feelings, and I feel that way about myself. So really, radical honesty is not about saying every single thought that comes into your head. It's about saying the ones that scare you. Because it goes like this. Radical honesty is about destroying the image of yourself that you are projecting or that you are trying to maintain and uphold in other people's minds. So how do you know, out of all the infinite things you could say, how do you know what thing is going to be the most profound? Well, if there is something about yourself that you're hiding, like let's take an example, sexual attraction towards a person. I think you're sexy. I want to have sex with you. That is a thing that changes the nature of a relationship dramatically. And people don't express it, even if the thought comes, because we're in some part, at some level, we're pretending to be something we're not. If you don't share something with someone or with everyone, you will never be able to have an experience of being fully loved and accepted by anyone. Because at some level, you are always going to think, when someone else says, I love you, I accept you, you are always going to think they only love and accept me because they don't know the real me.
Yep.
When you ask kids now, like 10 to 12, 13 years old, what do you want to be when you grow up? The most common response that you get from kids nowadays is not doctor, scientist, fireman, ballerina, astronaut. The most common response that you get now is famous.
Yep.
It's not even rock star or actor. It's just famous. I don't know if you know this, but that's not a job.
No. And what do they think? What have they decided that means?
I think that what it means is that they have a hole inside, that they think if 1 million people love me, maybe it will finally fill this hole inside.
Yes.
But it won't. It won't. It's worse. It gets worse. It gets worse the more people love a fake version of you. It's only when you are totally real, totally raw, when you take out the most despicable, disgusting, unacceptable parts of yourself and you go, and then you show it to others, and then one person says, yeah, I knew that.
And that's beautiful.
It's beautiful. I know that. I love you, of course. that is the moment when you are now capable of feeling good enough.
Absolutely. Let's spin focus for the last few moments of this to whether there were any questions that showed up.
You want to check Facebook? I'll check the. I'll go through the Zoom stuff.
No comments on the Facebook. So far
Okay.
as I can tell.
Coralie said, my outburst with the guy driving the car and almost immediate pesky sales call as a signal to work on what was underneath it. Yeah. Oh, she took my outburst. Some new information was coming. It is a change because normally my unconscious only gets my attention by falling on my face with food. Actually was a move I appreciated. So you saw getting triggered as a sign that something was happening, and it's a new strategy that your unconscious is using, and that's a good thing for you.
Nice.
That's awesome. Eric says, yes, I feel anger in my body. I like that. Awesome. Got a lot of good points, cool information. Coralie says, plus it was a setup for me to really hear what you're saying today. Yep.
Yay.
Well, time doesn't work the same way in the unconscious mind. You can have causes that happen after effects in the unconscious world.
Uh-oh, did we just get Super Slaughterhouse 5 just then?
I don't know. Can you still hear me?
No, I'm just the book about time and our lives not necessarily going in a particular order.
In the imaginary world, that's how time works. Coralie says, if there's one thing that I see in clients that creates the most conflict, it's not being respectfully honest to the other person. I agree with you there. Respectful honesty is very true. To me, this is where radical honesty and NLP meet, is that NLP is an entire science about how to say things. Mm-hmm. But NLP says almost nothing about what to say. That, to me, is why I believe wholeheartedly that NLP without a grounding in radical honesty is a path to madness. If you don't have radical honesty as a guiding foundational principle of like what is reality, then you start thinking about thinking about thinking about thinking about thinking about thinking, and NLP will drive you absolutely crazy. Now, when you have radical honesty, one person who's radically honest versus another person who's radically honest and has NLP, which they are using to serve the truth. How do I better speak the truth? Now you're talking a completely different game. And I mean, when you guys say respectful honesty, I think of it and I go, I think NLP rapport, right? I'm still going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to tell it to you in a way that hopefully you can actually hear it.
Absolutely.
Unlike other people who may tell you the truth, but they're going to say it in their own triggered way.
Oh, yes. How I can better speak the truth. Happening here from Eric. I think it was interesting earlier you had said that the most profound thing that you can say when you're looking at how to be honest in this moment, the most profound thing you can say is the thing that terrifies you most, scared shitless, which is interesting because that brings us back to the earlier point of actually releasing the shit. The thing that scares you the most, that's what people generally are repressing. This emotion scares me. I can't have it. It's bad. Push it down.
I'll be rejected if I express it.
Absolutely.
Wow. Hey, full circle. We were talking about expression and depression, right? So what's the thing you're repressing? That when you're depressed, there's something you're repressing, and the thing that you're afraid to express is almost always going to be the thing that you are most afraid. If you expressed it, you would lose that person. Yeah. They would reject you in some way, or they'd reject that aspect of you.
Full circles.
Hey, that was great. That tied it all together in a nice, neat little bow. I feel good about that.
I feel pretty great about it too. Plus, there was pooping and there was cussing, and people liked it, I think.
Yeah, seemed like y'all liked it.
Had an NLP standing up.
That's it, people. Well, we got one more of these for sure next Thursday, and then from there we're gonna kind of see what the response was, and if we get enough response from people saying, hey, please come back, then this may turn into a regular Thursday thing. Or I don't know, if we're not getting a lot of response or whatever, then we may take that as feedback from the masses that there isn't a call or a need for this. Other than that, is there anything else we're supposed to announce? I don't think we got anything going on. Next Thursday we'll probably do something, but we haven't announced it yet. So
yeah, I know you've got a super elite training that you're still doing with people. Are there spots open in that right now?
Yeah. Okay. Well, very briefly, because I actually have to go in like 1 minute. I am doing an advanced coaching program for master practitioners and trainers of NLP. That is for people who want to take their skills and hone it. It's basically like a martial arts dojo for NLP and hypnosis, where you can practice with other people, you can work on your weak spots, and most importantly, you can get feedback and fill in the gaps, because it's such a closed loop. Most people, they learn these tools and techniques and they work with people in environments where they don't get any feedback on how they can improve. And that's not how people improve. Like, you don't get better at stuff by working in a tiny little environment. So the program's called Living NLP, and I think if you go to nicholasrave.com/livingnlp, you can find some more information about it. If you're interested, check it out. I am filling a new group of 4. They're super, super small groups. So I'm filling a new group of 4 right now, and I'm looking for 4 fantastic NLP interested geeks who want to learn more about this. And that's it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Eric says he is busy next Thursday, so he won't be able to attend this awesome webinar. Thanks for the feedback, buddy. It says he's in training to become a yoga nidra practitioner and facilitator. Awesome, dude. We got to talk more. Let's talk. I want to talk to you about breathing and stuff. So feel better, and then we'll chat. All
right. Thanks for being here. Everyone who's checking this out later, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all those Facebook people who are watching it. Love you all. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you next Thursday.
Good night.
Bye-bye.